Close your eyes for a moment. Picture the greatest city in the world. Imagine wide stone roads stretching in every direction. Imagine tall marble columns glowing white in the morning sun. Imagine fountains spilling clean water into the streets day and night. Imagine a city so powerful, so confident, so alive, that it called itself the center of the universe. That city was Rome, and for a very long time it truly was. At the height of its power, around 100 AD, Rome was home to more than 1 million people. It had libraries, theaters, public baths, magnificent temples, and roads that connected the entire known world. Roman engineers built aqueducts, giant stone channels that carried fresh water across mountains and valleys for hundreds of miles. Roman soldiers were the most disciplined fighting force on earth. Roman law still forms the foundation of legal systems used today. By every measure, Rome was extraordinary. But here is the thing about Rome. If you could step into a time machine and actually walk through those famous streets, really walk through them, breathe the air, touch the walls, live one full day as a Roman citizen, you would come back changed, not inspired, not filled with wonder. You would come back deeply, thoroughly disturbed, because beneath all that glory, behind all that marble and power, daily life in ancient Rome was something no history book ever fully prepared you for. It was shocking. It was dangerous. And most of the time, it was absolutely disgusting. Let us begin with the morning. Every Roman, rich or poor, had to answer the call of nature. And in ancient Rome, this was not a private act. There were no toilets in most homes. Instead, Romans used large public latrines, long stone rooms with rows of marble seats carved with holes, side by side with no walls between them. You sat shoulder to shoulder with complete strangers, doing your business in full view of everyone else. Conversations were held, business deals were made. It was considered completely normal, but the seats were only the beginning. After finishing, Romans used a device called a tersorium, a sponge attached to the end of a stick. There was one sponge for the entire room. You used it, rinsed it in the small channel of running water at your feet, and left it for the next person. 40 strangers, one sponge, every single morning. If that turns your stomach, hold on, because it gets worse. Beneath those marble seats, hidden in the dark sewer tunnels below, lived rats and snakes, and something far more terrifying, methane gas. The latrines sat directly over the city's sewer system, and sometimes without any warning, the gas would build up to dangerous levels and ignite. The latrines would explode. Real Roman citizens were killed, burned alive, while simply trying to use the bathroom. This was so well known that Romans carved images of Fortuna, the goddess of luck, onto the latrine walls. They were not being poetic. They genuinely believed they needed divine protection just to survive a trip to the toilet. Now let us talk about urine. Because in ancient Rome, urine was not something to be embarrassed about. It was not something you tried to get rid of quickly. Urine was a resource. Urine was precious. Urine was in many ways the backbone of Roman hygiene and industry. Every morning, Romans brushed their teeth with fermented human urine. Mixed with pumice powder and left to age for days, urine becomes rich in ammonia. Ammonia is a powerful cleaning agent. It bleaches, it whitens. Romans had no idea why it worked, but they knew it did. And so pots of aged urine were a standard item in every Roman home. The wealthy bought their toothpaste from street vendors. The poor collected it themselves. Either way, every Roman in the empire started their day by putting fermented urine in their mouth. But the dental industry was just the beginning. Urine was also used to wash clothes. Fullers, the Roman version of dry cleaners, collected urine from public pots, placed at street corners throughout the city. Workers stood in huge stone vats, filled with urine and clothing, stomping up and down for hours to clean the fabric. The ammonia broke down grease and stains. The clothes came out clean. The workers went home, smelling like something you cannot describe in polite company. The trade in urine was so profitable that Emperor Vespasian placed a tax on it. When his own son complained that the tax was undignified, that it was shameful to make money from something so filthy, Vespasian held a coin up to his son's nose and said simply, "Pecunia non olet." Money does not smell. It became one of the most famous phrases in Roman history, and it tells you everything about how Romans thought about the world. In the afternoon, a typical Roman would head to the public baths, and this part at first sounds genuinely wonderful. The baths were magnificent, enormous buildings with heated pools, cold pools, steam rooms, gymnasiums, gardens, and libraries. Going to the baths was not just about washing. It was a social event. It was entertainment. The baths were the heart of Roman social life, and every city in the empire had them. There was just one small problem. The water was almost never changed. Hundreds of people soaked in the same pool, day after day, week after week. Sweat, oil, and dirt floated freely in the water. Sick people were sent to the baths by their doctors, because bathing was considered medicine. So pools that were already questionably clean were now full of patients, suffering from every illness imaginable, mixing freely with perfectly healthy people who had no idea what was floating past them. After bathing, Romans scraped themselves clean using a curved metal tool called a strigil. The strigil removed sweat, oil, and dead skin from the body. So far, reasonable enough. But here is where things take a turn. The scrapings from the bodies of famous gladiators, real used sweat and skin, were collected and sold in small ceramic jars. Wealthy Roman women bought these jars and rubbed the contents on their faces. They believed the strength and power of the gladiator lived in his sweat, and that rubbing it on their skin would transfer some of that vitality to them. This was not a fringe idea. This was mainstream Roman beauty culture. Roman medicine is a subject that could fill an entire book on its own. Some of it was surprisingly effective. Roman soldiers packed their battlefield wounds with spider silk, which we now know contains vitamin K, a natural coagulant that helps stop bleeding. Brilliant, even if they had no idea why it worked. But for every one thing Roman medicine got right, it got 10 things catastrophically wrong. Galen, the most celebrated physician in the entire Roman Empire, believed that dreams were a diagnostic tool. If you were sick, Galen would ask you to describe your dreams. He would then use those dreams to determine what was wrong with you and how to treat you. This was not considered unusual. This was state-of-the-art Roman medicine. For constipation, physicians prescribed a metallic pill made from antimony, a heavy, toxic metal. The pill did not dissolve. After passing through the body, it was retrieved, cleaned, and reused. These pills were passed down through families like heirlooms. Your grandmother's constipation pill, used faithfully for generations. For skin diseases, doctors prescribed mercury, rubbed directly onto the skin, when patients inevitably got worse, because mercury is a violent poison. Doctors prescribed more mercury. And for truly severe conditions, Romans turned to something far darker. Epilepsy was one of the most feared conditions in ancient Rome, and the cure that Roman physicians recommended, sincerely, officially, seriously recommended, was to drink the warm blood of a freshly wounded gladiator. Not the blood of just any gladiator. It had to be warm. It had to be fresh. Families of epilepsy sufferers would pay in advance for the right to rush onto the arena floor the moment a gladiator fell, and drink directly from his wounds while the crowd still roared above them. Gladiator liver, they believed, transferred physical strength. Powdered goat dung mixed with vinegar was given to injured charioteers as a recovery drink. These were not desperate remedies used by poor, uneducated people. These were the documented, physician-recommended treatments of the most advanced civilization on Earth. And now we arrive at the deepest and most tragic irony of all. After everything, the exploding latrines, the shared sponges, the urine toothpaste, the gladiator blood. After all of it, the most dangerous thing in ancient Rome was the thing Romans were proudest of: the aqueducts. Rome's greatest engineering achievement. Clean water, carried from distant mountains, flowing through the city every minute of every day. Romans were rightly proud of this. Other civilizations had nothing like it. It was a genuine marvel. And then the water flowed from those aqueducts into lead pipes. Lead pipes, installed in every home, every bathhouse, every kitchen in the empire. Lead was everywhere in Roman life, in cookware, in wine vessels, in a popular sweetener called sapa, which was made by boiling grape juice in lead pots until it reduced to a thick syrup. Romans loved sapa. They put it in everything, and without knowing it, they were slowly poisoning themselves with every meal. Lead poisoning causes irritability, confusion, memory loss, and erratic, violent behavior. Historians and medical researchers have noted that many of Rome's most infamous emperors, the ones history remembers for madness, cruelty, and spectacular bad judgment, showed symptoms entirely consistent with severe lead poisoning. Caligula, Nero, Commodus. We look at their behavior across the centuries and call it madness. But it may have been something far more mundane. It may have been their pipes. It may have been their wine cups. It may have been their dinner. Rome fell, eventually. The reasons are many, and historians still debate them. But when you stand back and look at daily Roman life from the outside, really look at it, the way we have looked at it today, you see something remarkable. You see a civilization that was genuinely brilliant and genuinely blind. They built aqueducts but used lead pipes. They worshipped a goddess of health but poisoned their food. They developed medicine but prescribed mercury. They had great public sanitation but shared a single sponge. The word hygiene comes from Hygeia, the Greek goddess of health, whom the Romans also worshipped. They said her name every day. They built temples in her honor. And yet, in almost every area of daily life, they were doing the exact opposite of what her name stood for. History is humbling. Every civilization believes it is the most advanced, the most logical, the most enlightened. Rome believed it absolutely. And 1,000 years from now, people may look back at us, at things we do every day that we consider completely normal, and feel exactly the same queasy disbelief that we feel right now, thinking about a Roman citizen starting their morning with a mouthful of fermented urine. Rome was extraordinary. Rome was powerful. Rome was, in many ways, the foundation of everything we are today. But Rome was also, by our modern standards, deeply, genuinely, magnificently disgusting, and somehow, that makes it even more fascinating. Thanks for listening. And the next time someone tells you that the old ways were better, just remember the tersorium, one sponge, 40 strangers, every single morning.